Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings you give us in life each day. Lord, bless us tonight. Any decision we make may be based, Lord, on your glory, Father. Go with each one of us now. Everyone maybe have a safe trip home, and may we always give you the praise and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Mary Ann, you want to give us the roll call, please?
Chair Moore,
Here.
Vice Chair Schreiner,
Here.
Ms. Holman,
Here.
Ms. Gregory, Mr. Morrell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All righty. Everyone looked over, I'm sure, the minutes of the May 23rd meeting and stand for motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the minutes carried from that meeting. Public comment at this time on different items. We will come back and let you talk at a later time on each item as we go over it for the public. So you'll be recognized later on. Is that right, Brian, what we need to do?
Now we would open up a public comment session for agenda-related items, and then during each item, we'll also provide an opportunity during the public hearing.
So we need to open up now. If anyone has anything you want to say now? Anyone? Okay, I'll close it to the public, but we'll come back to these items, and if it is something, you can say something about that. All right, the first one on the agenda tonight is resolution number 2024-007, Finney Storage Subdivision, Greenfield Design LLC. The owner and applicant request a rear yard building setback variance of 6 inches and a side yard building setback variance of 6 inches. Section 0802030 of the Gallatin zoning ordinance requires a minimum rear yard building setback of 20 feet and a minimum yard setback of 10 feet. If this is approved, the variances will allow a rear setback of 19.5 feet and a sideback of 9.5. This commercial service located at Tulip Poplar Circle Drive and east of 10 Highway 109. You gonna give the report for us?
Yes, sir. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval, like I said, of basically a half a foot side yard and rear yard variance to permit a 19.5 foot rear yard and a 9.5 foot side yard. So the buildings were constructed, and then a post-construction survey found that the buildings were 6 inches off of where they needed to be, or an amount up to 6 inches. Some of them are less than that. And so with that, staff has to recommend denial of the variance, but that's all we have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Calibrated that ruler.
Now you'll have to open up a public
Yeah,
hearing.
open it to the public. Does anyone want to speak on this particular one? If you are, come forward, if you would, at one time, state your name, and then you can speak.
We're the applicant. You want to wait on that?
Yep.
Then, yeah. So you can close the public hearing now.
Huh?
You can close the public hearing now.
Okay, we close the public hearing. Now then. I'm sorry.
Andy Leith, Greenlit Design, representing the applicant, which is also here, Mr. Andrew Finney. So just like to tell the body that we did go through the proper channels of design with this. We did the initial survey, we did the site plan, BZA. I think we had to come to you guys for a BZA variance for this site as well. So we did everything right up until construction when a mistake was made, obviously. Would like to point out to this body that the few inches that we need, we're asking for 6. I think most of the encroachments are less than 4. And the encroachments don't benefit the site anymore. There's no financial gain for Mr. Finney by being in this setback and encroachment. It's an honest mistake, based on getting it set out.
Andy, I'm assuming the vast majority of this is because of the brick ledge on the buildings.
Most likely, the footer probably, which it would have never been found had we not been doing an ALTA survey for financing. So I know that's beside the point. I'm just setting up why we did the post-construction survey. But we did do everything by the book except the construction. Whereas a lot of what you guys deal with is people trying to circumvent the system. We were not trying to do that. Just messed up on the construction.
So it's still the same amount of units, still the same amount of buildings. Okay.
This encroachment did not gain us anything financially, did not gain us anything that's a benefit to him. And we don't feel like it's a detriment to the neighbors. One side's got right away, and of course the other side is against the neighbor, but we've tried to reach out to that gentleman multiple times and can't seem to get a hold of him.
I'm assuming, and staff maybe will answer this, I'm assuming there was a landscape buffer on that side, like all the plants were still able to be placed.
Plants are already in, right?
Yeah.
Plants are already in.
Okay, so it's not like it limited that either.
Any questions? Andrew, would you like to say anything?
You know, I think in the process of this, I've been on the site for almost 3 years now, and it's been a long and a hard project. I've spent significant amount of resources and personal funds on this project that many aspects of it will benefit the city, do benefit the city, sidewalks and water that we didn't plan on running to the site, and now it's there. And so there are a lot of benefits to it. Again, this was something that was more than likely foundation stake accidentally moved or a tape measure that was not pulled correctly. Again, I don't believe any of them are 6 inches. We would just like to
Just covering bases.
cover our basis. Even 4 or 5 inches would be okay, but we'd like to ask for 6.
Any question for Andrew?
I mean, I agree. I've been over that site, and
Yeah.
it improves the area. Like you said, it brought utilities to the area. Didn't get them any extra units, nothing to gain.
It's my understanding that they met all the original condition that was placed on the site by the BZA, which I was not on it, was the brick facade, and they've provided that. That also came up in the site plan process at PC.
And it's not our job to determine whose fault it was, whether it was an uncalibrated tape measure or surveyor, whoever. Can't think of a guy on the plant that wouldn't want a few extra inches, so makes sense to me.
Any other questions? Brian, you have anything? Okay. I'm ready for a motion then.
I move to approve.
Motion
second.
been made by Jeannie, second by,
I'll second. Well, I'll second to approve a 6-inch variance.
okay.
We got to state the actual.
Move to approve 6-inch variance on the property.
You second, Drew?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll second a 6-inch.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? So you have your variance on that, okay? Thank y'all for coming. Next thing on the agenda, resolution number 2024-08, the owner and applicant request a variance of 800 feet from the required minimum side yard setback of 10 feet per section of 0802030 of the Gallatin zoning ordinance to allow for a 2.00 foot side yard setback on 0.73 acre parcel. And this is located on Southwater Avenue and north of East Winchester Street. Does anyone public want to talk on this tonight? Not now, just raise your hand. You do?
Mr. Chairman, if I can give a quick presentation on that first,
Okay,
and then we'll open up the public hearing on that. So, just to give you an overview, this property is located on 315 Southwater Ave, just slightly south of the downtown area. There are a few businesses in a main building in the front of this property, and then really the subject of the discussion tonight for the variance is a recently constructed metal building in the back, which I'll point it out on the screen up here, is this building right there in the red, on the red roof. The main building would be this one here, okay? So the main building currently sits not within the setbacks. It's about 6 feet from the side yard, which is this line down here. So the normal setback is 10 feet. So it already doesn't meet the setbacks for the main building, but the newly constructed building was built up to 2 feet away from the property line. One of the things that we kind of had to determine was, first off, we need a survey for this property to determine some of these distances. The building was put up without permits. The building didn't meet setbacks. There were also several things done to the site that were not in compliance with some things regarding the stream. You can see the red line there is where we have a stream running across this property. And so they did a lot of driveway improvements to try to get back to that back area. And grading and stuff, dirt and everything got pushed over into the flood area. So it affected that stream in a way that engineering was not happy. And so they ended up having the property owner create a study or a plan for how they would mitigate what had been done. To date, and engineering's here, Lance can maybe report on, what they have done or still need to perhaps do on that front. But the request for what's before you tonight is for that building and the setback rules. It doesn't meet the current setbacks. And so if a variance is granted, then they would be able to keep the building in the location where it's been placed. If a variance is denied, then they would have to either take the building down or move the building to a location that is compliant with the current, what the setback rules are. Of course, they'd still have to meet all the city regulations and get permits and things like that, which, again, none of that was done in the process of putting this building up. So we have the survey plan here. That basically is, and you can kind of see it. It's maybe difficult on your screens, but your dimension for how far that building is away from the property is right in there, but it's 2 feet. That dark line along the edge, it's dark because there's a retaining wall there. So there was a retaining wall put in to kind of help flatten out some of that land area, and then they were able to place the building on top of that.
So the retaining wall was constructed as well?
Now, a retaining wall, the retaining wall is not,
Down off
you
the
know,
property, or does it go? Like,
There-
is it creating a dam for the water, or is it causing all the water to run off?
that's not for water runoff necessarily. It's
I
just,
meant,
Like if you were at the edge of the building's to your back, are you stepping off of the retaining wall or are you going
that's the
up?
question I should have asked.
oh, it goes down below.
Okay.
So you'd step off, I believe. Yeah, yeah.
When you mentioned water, I mean, I've got a piece of property that's in a floodway that sucks and I can't do anything with it.
But that retaining wall is on this side.
Yeah.
The water
Is it a flood?
is up here on the other side.
Based on the previous map, Drew, it looks like the building itself is out of the floodplain.
It's not correct. It's
Okay.
not in the floodplain, but the,
Like the previous.
There is a
previous picture
portion
that
of
was there,
the
The red
older
was the
building.
floodway and the blue was the floodplain. It's out of that completely. But I think what Brian was saying is that they did some work on the site so that they could get back to this building. And in doing that, they got stuff into the actual buffer of the stream.
Got it, okay.
yeah. Lance, did you?
I can't, are you finishing your presentation? Do we need to close that presentation now?
That's fine.
Can he,
The staff recommendation on this is to deny the variance. We have had, Mr. Sam Luce has come in and has been now working with us. We had sent him a big violation notice that he needed to start getting his ducks in a row, or, there were going to be some penalties and potentially fines. He has now come in and begun to work through that process with us. However this is determined, we'll kind of determine some of the steps that we move forward with from here. But, the setback rules are the setback rules, and what we understand is that you can't really have a grant of variance based on a self-imposed hardship, which, they didn't come to the city first to determine where do we need to put this building. They just went and put it up. Right. So, that's kind of where we are with that. So,
I'll open it up to the public hearing. Yeah,
Public first.
state your name, Doctor.
My name is Bill Baber, and I own the veterinary clinic next to the property in question at 301 South Water. I came tonight just to kind of see how this process works, because I may have something in the pipeline. But as far as what's been done, I don't know the owner, but the building, as was stated, was put up, and I'm going to assume that they didn't know that they needed to get a permit, what have you. They ain't from Gallatin, all right? And so they put up this building, and they dug out into the bank of that building back there. Don't worry about that retaining wall. That ain't got nothing to do with this. That's been there since Jimmy and I were children. But they dug in, there's a slope there that comes down off of Winchester, down towards the creek. And so they went in and dug into that bank, okay, and poured a concrete slab there for this building you're talking about. Well, they took the dirt, and again, I'm sure you didn't know, they came over here and they put it over here, and some of that dirt went down to the creek. Big boo-boo. They have gone above and beyond to remedy that problem. I don't know what heavy equipment is called, one of those things that reaches down and grabs dirt and pulls it up, but they had men in there with shovels and pickaxes digging that dirt out, putting it in 5-gallon buckets, bringing it up out of the creek back onto their property. They have gone above and beyond to remedy this problem. Now, I think even after they did some of those improvements, no, that didn't work because there was some kind of problem with a netting or something they put down, so they had to go back and take that out and redo it. And then some of the shock rock they put in was evidently down towards the creek too far, so they had to come back, take that rock out by hand, dig down, then set the rock back again to make this all look good. Then they put down this that mat, Jude. That kind of stuff. Put that down, sowed it. They've got some plants, I understand they have to plant, all of that. That really doesn't have anything to do with this building question, but I just wanted to point out to you so that you would know how much they have tried to remedy a problem that I think they created not knowing. Now you may say ignorance is not an excuse. I don't know that I would necessarily agree with that. And I think that a variance here, if I understand, I'm going to point at this map. I was trying to listen to this. So this is the retaining wall, right? And you're saying that this garage has to be back how far from that wall?
Well, from the property line, 10 feet.
10 feet.
10 feet. That's where the wall is, the property line, I'm assuming.
The wall is a little, maybe a foot or so off the line, and the building is another foot. So it's 2 feet kind of from the, from the
So,
property
I'm sorry,
line.
the building is how far out of compliance?
8 feet.
8 feet.
Yeah.
So what does it do? There's nothing on this side of that vacant lot there. So my question is, why not extend grace? Let's don't call it a variance. Let's extend grace to someone who built a nice building that does nothing to detract from the property. It doesn't impinge upon the adjoining property owner, because that ain't nothing but a fescue filled with weeds. So that doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect the floodplain, because they've gone in and multiple times to try to remedy the creek situation there. And I've personally seen that happen. And they have worked like dogs to get that done. So I'm here not as in favor of anything or against anything. I'm just here to elaborate about what I have seen and kind of see how this whole process works. But again, it has no bearing on me whatsoever. If you elect to give them the variance or the grace and let that building stand, I'm fine with it. It's not going to hurt a thing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Bud.
You bet.
So you can close the public hearing now, because they're the applicant.
No one else I don't guess. I'll close it to the public. And would y'all like to come up, please? State your name and all if you would. You are the owner, I'm assuming?
No, he's the owner.
Okay.
I'm the property manager. I'm Sam Lewis. I'm the property manager.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Medhat, he's a contractor. He did he
Storm bank.
the storm bank. He worked with Mr. Lance to fix all the storm bank issue, and Mr. Medhat will continue to fix all the problems. Either we grant the variance or we deny we didn't grant the variance. He will continue to get the building, continue with me to get the building, to get it done at the very end.
This is Medad from Agape General Contractors. I helped Mr. Sam fixing the issue for the storm bank. We get it done with Mr. Lance, and we are looking forward to have done with this variance. The most important issue that the retaining wall is already cracked, and we don't want to move or demolish anything from the building, so the retaining wall will collapse or something like that. I have already some pictures that you can. It's so close for the retaining wall, so we don't want to move or
How large is the building?
What size is that building?
The building is 55 by 40.
55 by 40.
So the retaining wall, the building, the
1,000 square feet.
manager, so I work with the city to fix the problem.
Yeah.
After I received the property to management, I found the building is already attached to the retaining wall.
Yeah.
If we touch, our defense in this point, if we try to touch the building or move it, I
The
feel.
retaining
Yeah.
may collapse, or,
Exactly. So the
so we're
retaining.
trying to keep the building as is,
Our property is lower than the other property about,
3 feet,
and
about 3 or 4 feet.
the retaining wall is more than this. It reached
Yeah.
to here. It's like about,
Y'all need to talk one at a time, okay?
About 3, 4 feet above the, our property.
it's,
So it's opposite.
Yeah, I misspoke on that, I apologize.
That's okay.
So you said, Brian, if we deny this, they'd have to tear the building all down?
There are a couple options. They would either have to cut some portion off of it to meet the current regulations, or move the building to a spot on the property that meets the regulations, or, you know, take it down and do something else. But
Our job is to tell them what they have to do to resolve it. Our job is just to say yea or nay on the variance.
It sound,
Sir, you need to stay at the podium.
what I want to say, this is the level of the property you manage, and this is the wall. All the building stand behind this cracked
attached to
wall, attached to it. If we move it or touch it, the building is already well damaged, because this like a steel building is not a completely metal like steel building, and this wall also has already the level of the ground is stressed, like make a pressure in the property. If we move the building, we'll get a lot of damage in the
The
property.
existing building works as a retaining, for the retaining wall right now. That's what.
Paul is kind of holding up the building?
Yes. We have also some stuff here.
thank y'all. Any question for them?
Not yet. Lance, normally I wouldn't ask about the stream stuff, but it was brought up. Have they resolved everything?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to click your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, you can be seated. We got one, you can be seated. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, council. This is Lance Wagner, Assistant City Engineer for Stormwater. Back in 2022, we responded to a call of debris and mud being pushed into the stream. It is a FEMA mapped stream. There's a floodway and a floodplain associated with the stream, so that's a fairly serious offense in our world. We did bring Mr. Todros in, explained to him what was going on back in December of 22, and we issued stop work orders on the site immediately also, and got those in place. Mr. Todros came. It took him a while to get an engineer engaged and on board to get a corrective action plan together, but he did finally accomplish that, and we do have an approved corrective action plan. And over the past few months, he has been working diligently to enact that corrective action plan for the creek bank. So the main part of that was excavating out the material they had pushed into the creek bank and then stabilizing that creek bank. So I'm happy to report that that portion is, I'll call it substantially complete.
Okay.
There are some plantings that are required to be put in, but can't be put in until the fall when it's appropriate for those plantings. But as of this moment, they have complied with getting that material out of the creek, stabilizing with riprap, and the plantings are forthcoming.
Okay. My next question for you is, was this area where the building was impervious?
Yes, prior to this work, it was an impervious, mostly grassed area.
It was pervious or impervious?
Pervious, I'm sorry,
Okay.
pervious, a grassed area.
Any other question?
Have they worked with codes at all?
They have. I'll let Code speak to that. If you need me back up here, just call and I'll
Okay.
come back up. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, committee. Charles Durflinger on behalf of the Building Codes Department. This property was built without any prior approvals from the planning region or planning department, nor the building codes. No permits had been acquired or plans, designs submitted for approval. The codes department is recommending disapproval based off the location the building was placed in, does not meet setbacks between buildings, allowing for inadequate protection between the buildings for fire coverage. The fire apparatus do not have adequate access to the back side of that building. And any, if approved, a lot of remediations would need to be applied to the building and the main property itself to bring it up to codes to include sprinkler systems and such to overcome. If you have any questions.
And the sprinkler requirement is because of the proximity of the two buildings together.
Correct. And additionally, based off the usage that the building was being used for before we went and posted it as a dangerous building, they were utilizing it as an automotive garage, which would require, based off its use, to be sprinkled as a new building
But
in the first place.
They didn't create this problem, did they?
Sir?
They did not create the problem. It was already there, right?
The building?
Yeah.
No, the building they built brand new. Whenever engineering went down to correct them about their damage to the stream, they posted a stop work order, and they continued to work through that stop work order, putting down the concrete pad and erecting the structure. There have been no inspections on the property of the new building. They had also connected it directly electrically to the main building, which was incorrectly done. They have since corrected that. There have been a number of issues with it that need to be corrected and brought current with the codes to make that a usable occupancy as an automotive garage, and which also affects the capability of the main structure there that would also need to be brought up to current codes because they do not have the required distance between the buildings.
And what was your recommendation?
Denial.
Disapprove.
And
So is it
I mean-
accurate, even if a variance was granted, they still wouldn't need a certificate of occupancy?
If they were to be, the variance was to be granted and the building was allowed to be there, they would have to take and do substantial work to bring it up to codes.
in your opinion, if the variance was granted, is that possible?
It can be, yes. Like I say, it involved the
Sprinkler systems?
sprinkler system for both the auxiliary building in the back as well as the main building throughout, because they do have multiple occupancies in that facility that would require the same level of protection. Currently, the building is not compliant with any of the fire requirements.
Applicants, have they indicated that they would do?
They have indicated that they would be willing to do that. That also being said, they would have to do excavation to put a fire line back in there, which would also do more damage to the wall, or however they're going to get it back in there. So,
When you say fire line, the fire line to the rear building?
Yes, sir.
Basically, a dedicated fire line so that the fire sprinkler system can operate and function?
correct. Like I said, I'm not a sprinkler engineer, but like I said, the water's got to get back there somehow. And there's not very much room between the front of that roadside and the back of it.
With the sprinkler system in the building, would codes be okay with the fire access?
Yes, I'd say so. I'd have to verify that with Chuck Stewart, who has said that in the past that he would require them to put, if it was approved, to put in the sprinkler
Okay.
system.
This is, I guess, a question for Jim. Did we see a site plan on this site?
Yeah.
Or is this,
So what, Jim Carpenter, staff planner, so basically what happened with this was it may or may not have been on a work session at some point,
that's what it was.
but
Was.
I believe maybe in
They
November,
submit-
December.
They submitted for it, and it was at the November 27th, 2023 work session.
Or December,
The Planning Commission advised the applicant to address all the building codes and variance issues prior to coming back
That's right.
with their site plan.
That was at work session.
Yes.
Correct.
So if granted, they would also have to obtain planning commission approval through a site plan.
I'm opening
And
back
meet
up to
stormwater
public. Did
requirements.
you have a question, Dr. Baber?
We have to open back in.
Yeah, open it back up. Yeah,
To it, I mean, since I'm right there and have been for 30 years.
I know your neighbors, yeah.
Yeah. So the access to the back of this, so Gary Doris had a dry cleaner there back when you and I were younger. And then Bob passed away, but Bob bought it. Bob Summers. Bob's had it. Now, there's been a upholstery shop in the back of this building. And now I guess there's some kind of car thing or whatever going on back there. But you only have, let's say that's the side of the building right there. When you say it's about right to the edge,
that's about right.
About the creek right there, that's all you got to get back there. And there ain't no fire truck around here gonna be able to, get down that little narrow path. I heard that said and I was like, well, that is an issue. But of course, I'm looking at it like you're saying, well, talking about sprinklers and whatnot. It's a metal building on a concrete slab.
Yeah, but with the proximity to the existing building, you're now well over 5,000 square feet of building
I
area,
don't know all the
which
rules.
is
Your rules and
International Fire
regulations,
Code.
whatnot. I'm just saying, it seems to me what I consider, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but it's a metal building on a concrete slab that does not, and as far as the water runoff or something, I know that's what you were alluding to concerning the creek and whatnot, which I appreciate, because I own a building in that area. But every time you pave a parking lot for the Baptist church or the county parking and whatnot, and you don't use impervious or pervious asphalt there, then all that water just runs off.
Yeah.
That's been allowed and allowed and allowed. So I don't see how, whatever this is, 55 by 40 or what have you, that's going to make a tremendous difference because there's no paving. It's just grass and gravel. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight. I came to, as I say, to kind of see how this whole process works. I just don't see that it's that big of a problem. I mean, granted, yeah, I know you're supposed to get permits and all that stuff before. I'll say that I would like to say it was plead ignorance, not that there was an intent. And I don't know these guys. We don't have lunch together. I just knew that I saw the zoning thing and I got a letter saying this was going on, so I thought, well, I'll come and just kind of see what's going on. Any other questions you ask me, I mean, I'm just an impartial.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Latasha, do we have to close the public? We have to reestablish the meeting, right? Because we had to spin the rules for him to talk.
Right, you can close it again.
Okay.
Close it to the public, yes.
Mr. Chairman, the second half of your staff report includes the standards for granting variances. The first sentence in that portion says, "The board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented to it as follows." And then it goes through each one of the criteria that you're supposed to follow and determine, hey, do they meet this criteria? Okay, yes. Do they meet this criteria? Yes. If you can say yes to all of those criteria, then you can grant a variance. But it says you shall not grant a variance unless you make a finding that it meets all of those criteria. Does that make sense?
Couldn't we give them a chance, defer it, give them a chance to do this?
No,
I don't.
I'll just say, I appreciate all the input, but I can't make a case, to your point, I can't make a case to grant a variance when the mechanisms in place were not followed. So, I mean,
It's not necessarily that they did or didn't meet, get a permit. You know, that's not your criteria. It's based on, financial return. One of them is financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance. So, if somebody's going to be able to make some money on something, you can't grant a variance because they need that in order to be able to make some money, right? Another one is the variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance. That one you can, I would say, be fine with, because the proposed use that they're talking about does fit within that zoning district, right? But, I mean, it's appropriate for the board to consider these criteria and discuss them and determine, hey, do we meet these criteria, or does the applicant meet these criteria, or do they not? Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I don't, here's my input. We're not in a situation right now where we can grant this variance with 0 conditions. Like, the amount of conditions that would have to be placed on this approval is pretty extensive. I mean, and the conditions would be going through the site plan approval process, going through the codes approval process, going through, I'm assuming we can place those conditions on this, but
They would already be required.
yeah,
Those aren't maybe necessary conditions. You can add conditions of approval to a variance, but whether you put a condition of approval on a variance that said they had to get a site plan or not, they still have to get the site plan, so.
I mean, we're also looking at a over 2,000 square foot building that was built without permits, and, I mean, no codes review, no one to review whether or not the design was, we could potentially be causing a health and safety concern.
So if we deny it, the building have to be tore down, is that correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
If not, then they have to go back and work with the city on finding a solution.
If you deny it, a change would have to be made to the building. It couldn't stay.
That's the reason I asked, couldn't we
its
defer it and
present
let them
spot.
try to make that change?
Is that we end up in, do we end up in the same situation with a deferral that we do with a site plan? Yeah. So you end up in a situation, if we defer it, you end up in a situation where there's a certain timeline that gets placed on a particular project, and if we as a city don't, Latisha does it better.
Latisha Alexander, Assistant City Attorney. Chair Moore, this is a situation where whether you defer it or not does not really affect what they're requesting today, the variance. They could bring everything up to code and we still have the variance issue. They would still need a variance. So as Brian has expressed, our ordinance lists reasons for a variance. If you all feel that they meet these reasons, then you can grant it. But if they don't meet these reasons, then you should probably adhere to the denial that's been recommended by staff. So that's all y'all need to focus on. All this other information that's been brought up to you, it's a lot of great information, but what you all's focus is the variance. So a deferral will not change anything. If they brought all this stuff up to code, they did all the stormwater stuff, they would still need the variance because they are not meeting the setbacks. So that's the issue.
You're saying it's either yes or no?
Well, that's up to you.
No,
I'm not
that's
telling you what to
just
do,
said.
but I'm saying,
Well, I
I'm
think-
saying a deferral will not change the
That's
fact
why,
that
okay,
it's
that's what you're saying.
correct.
Well,
A
and I
deferral won't change anything.
think what Latisha is alluding to is if they went through and did everything they were supposed to, they got codes approval, they got site plan approval, they got stormwater approval, at that point, would we allow the variance?
There are
Can I open it back up to the public?
Well, he's the applicant, so you can have him come back up.
Okay,
There are 10 criteria. That's A through J in your staff report. If you look on your
Yeah,
screen,
I do.
you'll see those A through J
Yep.
criteria. Those are the criteria that you have to look at and determine, do they meet these criteria or do they not? And if you can answer yes to all of them, that they meet them, then yes, you could grant a variance. If If you feel that they don't meet any of those criteria, any one of them, then just one of them is enough to say, they don't meet it, and we can't grant this variance.
Well, I was looking at
That
J.
makes sense?
I looked at J. You look at J there, what we're saying is, the grant of variance will cause substantial derailment to the public goods and will not substantially impact the intent, purpose of the city zoning plan and zoning ordinance. So it's sort of if right there. For me, maybe I'm just dumb, don't know, but that's how I take it anyway. Okay, go ahead.
What I want to say regarding the sprinkler system, we already agree for the sprinkler system. We already agree for the sprinkler system. Once we get the granted, we will start in the next process, and all the other terms is already required, like with codes department, with all other departments, safety departments. It's already required. So once we get granted, we will work on it. Regarding the site plan, I already in contract with the engineer, who did, its name, chapter line is who did the surveying for the property. I already in contract with them, and he sent me in the email exactly. Once you get approved for the variance, we will start the next contract, next step. It's already signed to get the site plan and to get.
All other requirement documents.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may
Thank
be
you.
seated.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? I'll close it to public and, any other question? Not, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance. I can't make a case to approve.
A second.
If you make a motion to deny, it's very good if you
Provide a reason.
clarify which criteria you're basing that denial on. So it might be worth having some extra discussion on the particular criteria to determine, okay, where do you stand as a board?
Motion.
I guess I would go off of E. I mean, they created this own hardship. We wouldn't even be meeting had proper protocol been followed. Had they met with codes and just all of the things that everybody goes through to build a building, then it's possible that letter E here, the alleged difficulty or hardship is not being created by any person. The hardship was self-imposed.
Well,
That's my understanding of it.
I understand that too. Why did the city codes and all let them get this far?
They didn't. That's what I'm saying. They built it anyway. Is that all right?
They had told them not to continue, and they put a stop work order on the site, and the contractors kept going.
Contractors kept going.
I'm understanding as best as anybody, but I can't make a case for it. So I guess I would, to your point, and to your point, is I would make a motion to deny the variance based on the fact that the hardship was self-imposed. Letter E, that would be my, official statement.
I'll second.
Is that what is required for those?
Okay, motion been made by Drew and second.
That's a much clearer motion.
We're still in discussion. I mean, did I hear correctly? He said he was the property manager. So, does the property owner even know what they're getting themselves into? He said he was a property manager.
Yes. As a property owner, he's 75 years old.
Come up, we can't hear you back there. Talk in the mic, please.
The property owner is a 75 years old man. His son passed away. He's sitting with his grandkids. He has 4 granddaughters, so he's not be able at the moment to continue work professionally. So I have a full authorized for the property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other? Well, we done got a motion on the floor.
In a second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Got, so if you have to deny your proposal, sorry, okay?
Okay. What's the next item?
We had to deny it, your variance.
Brian, can you,
Yeah, Mr. Luce, the motion was to deny the variance. That was approved, and so that would mean that you'll need to work with us to determine how to meet the setback requirements, whether that is to
Marion.
cut some portion of the building off the back, or
I didn't
to
vote.
remove the building altogether, or what that means. So there'll be some decisions you'll have to kind of consider and think about
We
doing.
cut, we worry about the other property is higher, about 5 or 6 feet from us. It will make a big damage in both properties. So is any way to,
We can discuss that outside this
You
meeting,
may discuss that later on. Y'all can discuss this with them later on.
outside this meeting.
We
Okay,
can't do any
okay.
more tonight, but thank you for coming,
thank
okay?
you, thank you so much,
Okay.
thank you.
That brings us to number 3, resolution number 24009, adopt changes to the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals by laws, Gallatin Planning Department. Brian, I guess you'd want to talk about that.
I am. Right after we adopted our bylaws last time, I was given a few comments from Letitia, just really mostly typographical, but also there was one that seemed a little bit more substantial, so we felt like it was necessary to bring it back to the board for reapproval. Essentially, if you're looking at the first page, the very bottom in under officers, section 2, the word proved should be provided. So that was just a typo. In Article 5, procedures for accepting public comments and application presentations, section 1, letter A, should say, the board shall conduct a public hearing to obtain public comments on all items on the agenda and where, and we insert the word a, public, and delete the word comment and say public hearing is required by state or local law. And that's inserted prior to the word is held. Or I guess it's going to delete the word is held as well. So it'll just have a period at the end of that. And then lastly, on Article IV, which I guess that's 4, but that goes backwards because we just looking at Article 5.
IV or VI?
I think that those pages might have been stapled backwards. Anyway, procedures, article on procedures. The first paragraph, there's a word that says, I'll just read the last sentence. It says, the board motions shall include specific finds of fact, and that word finds should be findings of fact. So that's just a kind of another typo issue as well. Those were the 3 edits that we wanted to make, and we would just ask that you vote on that to make that official.
Do we need a public hearing? Okay.
What'd you say?
We need a public hearing.
Open it up to the public,
Sure.
ma'am?
I thought you made a motion. There's
No.
public hearing.
Okay,
I apologize.
awesome.
If somebody had wanted to,
I'm ready for motion, is what I'm ready for.
somebody wanted to comment, they could comment at the beginning.
Okay. Thank you, Latasha.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion been made to
The
approve,
revisement through the revised.
to revise.
bylaws, yeah.
Oh, okay. Jeannie, did you second?
I did.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that be carrying for you, Brian, everything on that to be fine. Any other business we need to at this
On-
time?
Only another announcement about the Planapalooza for the zoning code, ZOCO, update process that we're working on. Our Planapalooza dates are July 12th through the 15th. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, where we'll have our consultants in town to work on speaking with the public about this, making a few presentations about this, doing some public workshop type things. And that will all be across the way at the station, which is the Chamber's new space. So
What's the date on that again?
that is July 12th through the 15th.
12th through the 15th?
12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. So just please come out and participate in those events if you can. You know, a little bit of time from each person goes a long way. They take all the comments that they receive and they try to use that to help guide what direction they go in for writing up the code and the requirements. So you all use the requirements of the zoning ordinance in your positions here on this board, so it's a good idea, I think, for you to be involved in that process as well.
All righty, well, our meeting's done been set up for July.
You can go online to our website to see, you know, some of that information. And there's also a website built for the project. It's called zocogallatin.com. So you can go on there and make public comments on that website as well.
Okay. Hope everybody has a good 4th of July, and guess we'll see you all next month. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion made. All those say aye? Aye. We stand adjourned.